Hey guys, Starshaped here. Welcome back to Exploring 1.30, where we look at strategies that have been enabled or enhanced due to the new patch 1.30. And I'm going to bring another game here from Scott, which is going to be similar to episode 1, where we're going to see a Dreadlord Fast expansion, except this time the Undead's opponent is an Orc, Mountain King, aka Cash, the Russian Orc player, so a very strong Orc player here. And we're going to see how this Dreadlord expansion deals with an Orc player, a very good Orc player. And I'm going to do it from Scott's perspective. So I will have Fog of War turned on, and we're going to kind of feel how the game feels with the information that Scott has throughout the game. But before we start, let's take a quick look at the buffs that enable this strategy to work better than it did before the patch. So the Haunted Goldmine costs less. The Blight Radius has actually been reduced, which doesn't really matter. I'd consider it a buff because it makes the expansion a bit more sneaky. Like if you want to throw down a sneaky expansion in any given game as Undead, the Blight is a huge giveaway, so reducing that Blight is actually quite nice. In my opinion, you could maybe even make it so that there's no Blight summoned. That way you'd really have to scout well against Undead. But yeah, moving on. Necropolis also costs less, and I'll turn off Facebook, excuse me. Necropolis also costs less and has reduced build time, which is good for the Acolyte production to kick in. And the Ziggurat increased hit points from 550 to 600. And most importantly of all, I would say the Sacrificial Skull from the Tomb of Relics, which creates Blight on the ground, no longer requires a graveyard, as I mentioned in the very first episode. So all these things together make the Undead Fast expansion perhaps viable. I mean, the patch is still young, so we'll see how people and players react. But this is one of the strategies that I'm the most excited for with the new patch, Undead's That Can Go Fast expansion. So yeah, let's check out how the game goes. Similar to episode 1, we're going to see the Crypt Ziggurat opening from Scott, which I believe is the most optimal build order in patch 1.30 if you want to go for that instant expansion. I'm going to speed it up to 2x just a little bit here. Basically, this build order, it gives you a later hero. If we just quickly check, just for comparison's sake, the altar here with the Orc altar. So it gives you a later hero, but not by a whole lot. It does give you more ghouls, and most importantly, it gives you enough resources to expand as soon as that hero pops out. So you're going to have 2 Ziggurats, you're going to have a shop, you're going to have ghouls, and as soon as that hero pops out, you can buy a Sacrificial Skull, and you can run over to the expansion and start creeping. There's an Acolyte Scout, which you can or can't do, kind of a preference thing. It's quite nice to get some information, especially in a new patch. Like a lot of people are playing Farseer. You know, is it going to be 1 burrow or 2 burrow? But we do see the fast chop in the 1 burrow so far. And the nice thing about this Acolyte Scout is that it kind of doubles as the expansion builder in this case. So it's, well, a bit of a mistake here from Scott losing that Acolyte, but it could have been the expansion builder. So here we go. We have the 5 ghouls. We have that Sacrificial Skull, which no longer requires a graveyard. Rod of Necromancy to create more skeletons to help creep and defend. And a Dust, which is great against Orc. So you can reveal Blade Master, who might be lurking around in Windwalker's form. So you sleep the biggest creep. Any creep that's 5 or under is going to get the same amount of sleep time, so you might as well pick the most powerful creep to disable. So a nice little ghoul micro hero, not losing anything. Pulling them back, and here we go. Sacrificial Skull was a bit late. Should obviously plant it right away. And you can start the expansion. Now, one question that I have is, like, do you want to start this Haunted Goldmine first, or do you want to start the Ziggurat first? Which, in my opinion, I'd almost want to start the Ziggurat first, just to get it out as quickly as possible. But they're pretty much timed equally anyway, so it's not too important. And because we didn't build the graveyard, Just keep making ghouls. We can wait for the ziggurat to finish. It looks like Scott's kind of sticking around, creeping what he can, which is still close to the expansion, so if like a Blade Master or a Farseer shows up here, his army is not far away. Have a great item as well, Pen of Energy. Doesn't matter too much when you're going Sleep and Aura, but later if you retrain to Carrion Swarm, it'll be great. And obviously it can be a great pass over to other heroes like Death Knight or Lich, and so on. So we see a second ziggurat here. The great thing about these ziggurats is that they're farms, they're giving you food, so you have to build them anyways. You might as well put a couple here at the expansion, and you can turn them into cold towers, which upgrade very, very quickly, and are probably the best defensive structure you can get early on in the game. And you can see that new hit point buff here for 600. And just creeping, staying close. At this point it gets kind of a bit scary, because all of the easy close creeps are crept. But this is where the Nerub Tower really feels great. I mean, you can pause the game right here. It's 5 minutes into the game. The expansion's up. We have 4 Acolytes. 5th one on the way. 1 Nerub Tower. 2nd one going up. Almost level 3 on the hero. A lot of ghouls, both in the main and as the army. I mean, it feels like a great expansion timing. It feels pretty safe. It feels like this can be a great starting point for the undead when you want to go for a macro strategy that's more economically focused. And 5 minutes, if we're just keeping the Fog of War on and thinking from Scott's perspective, we can expect that the Orc, if he went for a 1-barrel tech, should have his tier 2 structures going up. His second hero should be on the way about now. So there's no immediate threat right now, but pretty soon there can be a lot of pressure. There could be wyverns. There hasn't been any scouting, which is a bit sloppy, but quite standard, I guess, from Orc players. There might have been a Windwalked Blade Master that we haven't seen, but definitely as undead, if you're going ghouls, especially with an expansion like this, I would be very afraid of wyverns. And yeah, here's the first encounter with the Orc. Cash is going for those Acolytes. And if we look at what Scott's doing here, is he's microing these Nerubian towers, so the attack speed is actually fast, but the cold effect lasts quite a bit longer than the attack. So if you individually select these units, even if you have just one, but in this case you have 2, you can slow every single unit with just this one tower if you hit them once and then redirect the damage, which is what we're seeing here. So everything's slowed. Attacking slower, moving slower. It's a great defense here. Great way to buy time. And a great way to catch units when he's trying to run away. Didn't even lose a single Acolyte. And this sleep here kind of forces the fight, which is kind of a scary fight to take because it's pretty much even numbers in the level 3 Blade Master. We do have level 1 Aura and level 2 Sleep, so there's a lot of mana here for Sleep, which is actually quite nice in the early game. Trading a Grunt for Ghoul feels great. And just the fact that we know that this Shadow Hunter isn't somewhere getting level 2 and level 3, getting good items, feels kind of good. So I would say this is a very comfortable position to be in as undead, just kind of taking these defensive fights. Losing a couple ghouls, it's not too bad. Getting a lot of attempts at Shadow Hunters around. Forces the speed scroll, so Cash will be able to heal up his units and run away. And from Scott we have almost tier 2 ready. The graveyard is on the way, so in case there are wyverns, these towers could be made into spirit towers. I would love to see, if I just pause the game, like, I guess on this map there's not really a lot of space, but just putting a ziggurat very, very close to the edges here, so you can make them spirit towers. Same thing here with the main, like if you put a ziggurat here, as close as you can, so that in case there are wyverns over here, for example, you can kind of feel a bit safe with the spirit towers. But the good thing about dealing with wyverns is that you do have that expansion, so you could, in theory, you could go gargoyles, which usually are quite bad against Orc because of the bats. But if you have 2 bases running, I think you can just outproduce. Like, you can make enough gargoyles to deal with any amount of bats and wyverns, or you can just get the fiends with web. But we are kind of wood starved, so a lot of these ghouls have been sent back. And the Dreadlord is kind of just running around doing his own thing. And we see a expansion going up for the Orc, which tells us, if we're the undead here, it kind of tells us that, okay, the Orc is still tier 2, otherwise he'd probably just get a tiny Great Hall. He's going Wyverns with Spirit Link. So it's not going to be double Bestiary Wyverns, it's not going to be a quick tier 3. Great information to pick up. And yeah, since we do need a lot of wood, all the ghouls are at home collecting wood, and the Dreadlord's just kind of doing what he can, scouting, being annoying, sleeping stuff. And we can confirm the fact that there is tier 2. And there is Wyverns and Walkers, nothing else.
Research complete.
So instant tier 3 from Scut. Double Slaughterhouse, 1 Temple of the Damned. Second Temple of the Damned going up. So this is a lot of wood, going tier 3 and getting 4 tier 2 tech structures. But that's the huge advantage here of going ghouls, is that obviously these are also your woodworkers, so you can get a lot of wood when you want it. But the big downside here is that they're in the main, and they're not creeping, they're not harassing, they're not attacking, so... would love to see some upgrades. Oh, there already is 1 attack upgrade, second one on the way. The great thing about the Unholy Strength upgrade is that it's shared between ghouls, skeletons, and meat wagons. So pretty much the entire army that Scott's going for is going to be buffed by this attack upgrade, and the armor upgrade if he chooses to get it. Nice little illusion baiting there by Cash. Picking up units with Hex and Wyverns. But I would still, if I was the Orc in this position, I would feel kind of behind. I would feel a bit worried that I was about to get overrun by a huge, like, economic army. Because this expansion, like the Orc expansion, takes such a long time to build when it's just a normal expansion. So if you're a Scut here, you're reasonably comfortable just kind of sitting here and getting that huge army, getting those upgrades. We do see the Skeletal Mastery upgrade, which in 1.30 also includes the Skeletal Longevity, so you get 2 upgrades for 1, although the price has gone up. But it's great because you don't need to spend a lot of time getting all these strange upgrades. You can just kind of get that 1 upgrade and then you're done. And we see an Alchemist second, which is an interesting choice. When I see this, I'm not really sure exactly why, but after the game, I did talk to Scut, so I do have a few notes from him, what he was thinking during this game, which we can look at. But for whatever reason, right now we see an Alchemist. Probably with either Heal Spray or Acid Bomb. I would probably think Acid Bomb first, which is what most people would get. Passing the Claws to it as well, because it does a lot of damage. Almost makes you want to go Chemical Rage, so he becomes like a DPS machine as well, but we'll see what he does. So we have the Orb Corruption, which has been nerfed by 1, like does -4 armor instead of -5. Still very good. Destroyer upgrade, Meat Wagons, picking up corpses, which also now are, I think they're half and half Crypt Fiends and Ghouls, which is a small change, but makes something like the Death Knight Ultimate very strong. So we do see Acid Bomb being thrown here at level 1. It's a nice spell actually against Orc because they don't really have, well in this case there's Healing Wave, but it's quite annoying to heal up these Wyverns if you want to use Heal Salve because like there's so much spread damage. So we kind of confirm that the expansion's up. See a Shredder. 4-3 heroes, and oh, that Alchemist is dead, but he's on level 1. It seems fine. Haven't been banking too much, we're just kind of going for that huge army right away. Pretty soon we can press forward to about 80 supply, and these ghouls, I assume they have Frenzy. I haven't checked if it was upgrading, but most likely we have Frenzy here.
Summoning is complete.
Yeah, we have just a lot of corpses. Statue giving mana to these Necromancers. The push seems kind of imminent right now. Heal score is great. Just kind of waiting for that Alchemist. Another, like, one really big advantage with the Alchemist is that he's very impactful at level 1. Like a lot of heroes, if you get like a Panda for example, you really want to get level 3. But the Alchemist is one of those heroes where just at level 1, like Acid Bomb level 1, even Heal Spray level 1, they're very, very strong spells. Yeah, here we go. The push is coming. There's 4 meat wagons. There's just the one statue, which I kind of like. And just a lot of ghouls, a lot of necromancers. I do want to see if 3-0 is coming, but it doesn't look like it. So they're not fully attack upgraded, but like I said, all of these are shared. And Cash is doing the really smart thing here, just abusing the fact that these wagons only have 380 hit points. So one is already down really quickly. What you can do as undead here is just drop your load so you have all the corpses on the ground before the meat wagon dies. So you at least can use the corpses. But sleep is actually a great counter to this, because like a lot of time, if I just pause before this encounter, a lot of the time the Blade Master is being annoying, killing your stuff back here while the army is somewhere else engaging. And this is a great way to make sure that the Blade Master just isn't going to do anything, because most of the time in this situation he's alone and you really need one other unit to wake him up, which he does not have at this point. So it's a great time for Scott to move out. Dropping corpses. The wagons are being focused right away, and there's really great dispel from Cash because all the corpses are clumped up, so these dispels are giving a lot of experience. They're removing a lot of skeletons, but there's even Cripple, which gets dispelled. But there's Cripple, and there are skeleton warriors and skeleton mages. And this spell is running out. But we do have a level 5 Blade Master, a level 4 Shadow Hunter against only 3-2. I'd love to see some Cripple on this Blade Master if there is mana, which right now, yeah, I think there is enough here. Actually, maybe not. I think it might be 275 even, so there's no mana for it right now. But Unholy Frenzy is also a great spell. Like, all of these Necromancer spells really do have their purpose, especially Unholy Frenzy, I would say, is quite underrated. Like, just look, it goes very fast with those Unholy Frenzy. Like, the only downside here is that you're taking a bit of damage over time, but the increase in attack damage, or attack rate, is actually better than Bloodlust and level 3 Endurance Roar combined. So this tier 2 spell is actually just insane as far as adding DPS goes. And Cripple, great way to chase down these heroes. There's not a lot that this Shadow Hunter can do. It's being slowed. Will go down. We even see a Tauren out, that's really cool. With the new patch, the Walkers and the Tauren come from the same building, so it's kind of natural. If you're going tier 3, for example, for the Lightning Orb and Master Walkers, you might as well get some Tauren that you can revive. And Pulverize, I think, would be very good against this army. But in this situation, it feels like Cash just didn't have the time to get that army out. Like, if he had more time, if he could counter-expand earlier, then I think a Tauren Walker army would be devastating against this. And it still might be, actually. But oh yeah, these wagons are just doing so much damage to these unarmored walkers. And these ghouls, man, they're just like little DPS machines. We do have level 2 aura as well, which makes them stay alive a lot longer. Blade Master's doing the smart thing here. Just right-clicking these wagons, they go down so fast. There is Dust and Cripple on this Blade Master. We might see him fall here. It's going to be very close now. Scott backs off. But the army of Cash is being decimated here. I mean, we do have 5/5 heroes from the Orc, which, like, the game is almost never over if you have those 5/5 Blade Master Shadow Hunter combination, because it's so strong. But at this point, it's just so much undead stuff all over the place. Alchemist goes down. We even have level 6, so we could see. Oh, we do see Blade Storm. Such a nice Blade Storm. Scott's trying to run back here, but all of these Necromancers getting caught up here. Looks like it could be a comeback here from Cash, honestly. There's only one wagon left. Not a whole lot of Necros. Just gotta get a heal wave in here. There is mana. Yeah, there's the heal wave. Oh, level 5 Deadlord though. So do we see Aura or do we see Sleep? Looks like we see Sleep. Let's check real quick. Yeah, level 3 Sleep.
Our forces are under attack.
So it's actually a very, very close game. Oh my god, is this Shadowhunter gonna die? Super close, 9 HP. Lightning Orb Purge just in time. And a Clarity going off, so there will be more healing. Scott's trying to chase him down, trying to cancel that salve. Wow, this is such efficient play by Cash, keeping these heroes alive, doing the most he can, but there is no fortified upgrade, and there's a lot of destroyers all of a sudden. So a bit of a tech switch, like once Scott sees the walkers and the Tauren, then you know that a lot of destroyers will be a good unit to have. And we're getting closer and closer to level 6 Dreadlord, which would, I think, definitely end the game. But Cash at this point, I mean, he's supply blocked. He has no expansion. He's really running on empty right here. But he does force the town portal, so I mean, this was like amazing play by Cash, I would say. Such efficiency, making the most of what he has, and utilizing all those tiny tactics with the Blade Master and the heal waves. Perfect timing. So what's the reaction from Scott? Well, more destroyers. More ghouls. I'd love to see more necromancers, honestly. It feels like Cripple will be very, very strong right now. So there we go, more necromancers. And there's no real rush here, I would say, as Undead. I'd maybe even consider not reviving this Alchemist just to get closer to level 6, get that solo experience. But we still have the expansion. We have a large army. Yeah, Cash realizes this as well, that like time is not on his side, so he's trying to do the most he can here. But fighting against an undead base is almost never a good idea.
Ready to brew.
Oh, I didn't even realize we had Brilliant Aura on that Shadowhunter. Yeah, that orb is really helping here. Like orb, I think it always looks better with a ranged army with fiends, but even with ghouls like this, you can focus fire stuff and it really helps. Cripple really coming into effect here as well, because there's no dispel, so Cash's hit and run tactics. Without Cripple, they'd be really strong. Like he'd pick off units, he'd run away, and all it would cost him is mana. But because we see Cripple here, these units cannot run away as easily, and will be picked off. Oh, there's no dust though. So there was a Cripple cast on the Blade Master, but no dust to follow it up. Yeah, that Blade Master man is just doing the very most he can. Great multitasking.
Our forces are under attack.
Will we see us around here? Oof, almost. Could be a block with the statue, but no. I think there will be mana for another sleep in about 8 mana, so... Oh, there's a Cripple coming in from behind there. And a second Cripple on the Blade Master. There is mana for Windwalk though. Oh, but the heal wave was out of range for the Shadowhunter. He did not get healed there. And GG. So that was a really cool game. And like I said at the start of this video, like Undead Fast Expansion is one of those things I'd really love to see be a viable strategy in 1.30. So we've seen it here. In episode 1 we saw the Fast Expansion in Undead Mirror. I'd love to do each matchup. So we saw against Orc here. I'd love to do one against Night Elf and one against Human. So I'll probably get Scott to send me those replays and I'll try to cover each matchup. So again, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing these cool new strategies and these players kind of adapting and trying new stuff. So big shout out to Scott for the replay. His Twitch is Scott Okova, so Scott Kova on Twitch if you want to watch him. He streams quite often. He does a lot of undead experiments. Cash also streams. Or does he stream? I'm not really sure. I don't think he streams that much actually, so I'm not really sure what his Twitch would be. But yeah, we had 2 great players here. A really fun game. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'll keep making these. And like I said before, if you have any cool replays of your own, trying new strategies in the new patch, then feel free to send them to me on YouTube or Twitch. It doesn't have to be top level replays either, like, it's just fun to see cool new stuff. So, see you guys next time. Goodbye. Hey guys, I'm back. I actually forgot that I had these thoughts by Scott, which I mentioned in the game. So I thought I'd put them at the end of the video here. So, basically thought that he played a bit sloppy. He forgot his dust, which we did see a few times, where the Blade Master was like crippled and about to die, but then Wind walked out of it because there was no dust. It's an easy mistake to make. I mean, you only get 2 charges per dust, so it's easy to run out and not really remember to get a new one. And the reason he went Alchemist, he said, is to deal with Spirit Link with the Acid Bomb as a way to counteract the efficiency of the Spirit Link. But however, maybe a Pit Lord would have been better with Howl of Terror to reduce the DPS instead of dealing with Spirit Link. Like, the DPS is more scary. But I kind of like the Alchemist because, like, Howl of Terror, you can get dispelled. Can't really dispel that Acid Bomb, and in case there's something like an area effect, like if we have Chain Lightning and Shockwave, being able to use Heal Spray would be a really good addition to that army, because there's a lot of low HP units. So I kind of liked it. As Scott said, it was difficult to creep during the early game, because you need a lot of wood, which we did see. Like, once you hit tier 2, you went instantly to tier 3, and build like 4 tech structures at once. So a lot of that was because all of those ghouls were chopping wood instead of being out on the map creeping, which is something to consider. Perhaps it's worth to tech a bit slower and not get everything at once, and instead use your ghouls more aggressively or passively just creeping. Hard to tell, really. I did say that skeletons feed a lot of experience, which we also saw in the game. Like, the Blade Master and Shadowhunter were 5-5, when like the Dreadlord and Alchemist was 4-2 or something like that. So ideally, you want to end the game as quickly as possible with the first push. And obviously, one way to deal with this strategy in that case is to, as the opponent, force a fight as close as possible to the undead base, which is the next point. Basically, force them to use a lot of skeletons, dump their corpses, use their mana. You can use Dispel, get a lot of experience, take a fight, and you're not going to win the fight, but you can transport out or use a speed scroll, and then prepare for the real fight with a lot of experience on your heroes and a weakened undead army. So it's probably the best way to try and deal with this, is not let the undead just walk to your expansion or main. Instead, try and engage as early as possible. And the last point was that the wagons are quite vulnerable and easily killed, which, I mean, that's an issue with all the siege weapons, especially the mechanical ones, so demolishers, glaive throwers, and meat wagons. They are weak. They died, like, I think the Blade Master killed a wagon in like 4 or 5 hits. So if you're playing against this strategy, definitely do what Cash did here. Put your Blade Master to work killing those wagons. One way to deal with that perhaps is to just keep your army as close together as you can and constantly sleep the Blade Master. So yeah, I just wanted to add those thoughts here to the end. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.